Science Outreach, how's it going? Hello! Hello. Hi! Hi, Science Outreach. My name is Eliza, and I'm really happy to be back here with you for another week. Today, we're going to be talking about viruses and evolution, and I'm super excited to jump right into it. But first, a reminder, last week we talked about vaccines and how they can help our bodies prepare to fight harmful viruses like the one we're facing right now by supporting our immune systems and helping it to create antibodies. Vaccines can slow the spread of disease. So we learned about the ways our body can fight disease, how disease spreads in the first place, and what we can do to prevent this spread. And today, we're going to be talking specifically about viruses themselves, which are these tiny germs that depend on living creatures to survive and can make us very sick. The thing that is special about viruses is that they have the ability to change or evolve to best survive in the environment they are in. Do you remember when we talked about evolution earlier in the year? We designed gifts for different animals that help them to best be equipped to thrive in their environment. Like animals, viruses also develop traits that suit their needs in a particular environment. This makes it tricky for scientists and doctors to develop one single response to a virus, as they evolve and change by a process known as random mutation. So what does that mean? Viruses, such as coronavirus, undergo random mutation, which basically means a change in DNA that doesn't follow a typical or predicted pattern that helps the germ grow stronger. But once a virus has changed or mutated, the likelihood or probability of that change becoming true for future generations of that virus is up to chance. Hold up. I just said probability. And I'm feeling like I might need a little bit of help understanding what that means. So I'm going to pass it on over to Sarah, who is going to take us through the next part of this lesson and help us understand probability, and then introduce us to a game that we have designed to help us all understand how viruses evolve and adapt to best support their own survival. Before we begin, my cat would like to remind you that you should have a pen and pencil if possible, and maybe a piece of paper to write on, and access to the worksheet we sent you, as well as the link for the online die. And then you should be ready to begin. Over to you, Sarah.
Hello, Science Outreach students. It's Sarah, and I'm excited to talk to you guys today a bit about evolution as well as probability. So for starters, I'm going to go over probability. So some of you may or may not know what that means, but I have a sort of demo with M&Ms to show you guys how that works.
So here are the M&Ms before we sort them, and here they are after. So you can see there are a lot of variation in the colors that are available. So to figure out the chances of any of them occurring, we have to do a little bit of math. And part of that is knowing the total number of M&Ms. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work with percentages, but I'll walk you through it, so don't feel too nervous if you haven't done them before. Basically, with percentages, what you want to do is you want to choose one number over the total. It's basically like division. So, if we want to figure out the chance of us getting a brown M&M, if we grab a single M&M out of the whole bowl, we want to do 7, which is the brown M&Ms, over 220, which is the total. This gives us 0.0318. So to make that a percentage, all we have to do is times it by 100. That's all percentages are. So when we times it by 100, we just move the decimal over, and that gives us 3.18%. So we'll do that one more time, just so you get more of a feel for it. So there are obviously a lot more orange M&Ms. So how we figure out them is we do 69, which is the number of orange M&Ms, over 220, the total number of M&Ms. And for that decimal, we get 0.3136. So to make that a percentage, just like last time, we have to times it by 100. So we get 31.36%. And that is the chance of grabbing an orange M&M out of all the possible M&Ms you can grab. So these chances are going to be really important for our game. So here we have more of an illustration of the number of M&Ms. So clearly there are not nearly as many brown ones as there are other types of M&Ms. We're going to use chance again in this game, using a sort of online die. So you're going to use this while you're playing the game and roll it to get an event. So if you roll a 7, then you choose event 7, and so on and so forth. So you have a 1 in 9 chance of any of the events occurring in your game.
So another thing we're excited to talk to you guys about today is a game that Eliza and I designed about evolution. So this game is based around mutations, although it happens way more often in the game than it's going to happen in real life, because in real life mutations are super rare. A mutation is any change to DNA at all. So plenty of different things have DNA. Like we human beings have DNA, animals have DNA, plants do, bacteria, any sort of fungus like mushrooms are going to have DNA. So this mutation only becomes an adaptation when it's useful for the organism. So an adaptation is a mutation that helps the organism deal with different situations. So for example, it's really hard to live in the Arctic, right? Because it's super, super cold. So animals there have mutated to have fur. And this mutation of fur is an adaptation because it helps them adapt to their cold environment and survive it better. So this game is all about adaptations, which will help you reach the treasure at the end of the adventure.
So after you roll the dice 3 times, you'll know which 3 events you should do. So you might get the same one twice, which means you just do it twice and you'll already know that you've adapted. So for me, I rolled a 7 as my first one, a 4 as my second, and 5 as my third. So I know I'm going to do 7, 4, and 5 as my events. And those are going to be the ones that my character encounters. So I'm going to start off with a little stick man because I think it's pretty easy to add on to them. So he's pretty simple to begin with, but he'll change over time, so it's no worry. So my first event was finding an apple tree that was just too tall to get a snack. So what he does is he, because I flipped a coin and figured it out, does succeed in adapting to the situation. So I know that he's found a way to get it to work, and I get to choose how. So I thought it would be really funny if he had super long arms to reach the apple. So I gave him very long arms. So it's always going to be changing because there's 9 different chances of events to occur. The second event, he encountered a lot of snow. So I'm going to draw him again in the deep snow. He's got his feet in it, so he's pretty cold. So I flipped another coin to see, and he did get an adaptation. So I was thinking, instead of solving the issue of him being in the snow and having a hard time walking, I would instead solve the issue of him being cold. So I decided to give him fur, just like a polar bear. And that way he will keep nice and warm in the cold weather. So he has adapted to the snowy environment on the way there. For the third event, my character encountered a really dark tunnel that he can't see through. It's too dark for his eyes. This time I flipped a coin, but I did not get tails. I got heads, which means he did not succeed at getting an adaptation and has to go home. So evolution doesn't always happen when you want it to. So sometimes you don't end up adapting when you need to. And that's okay, because for this, we always have a chance to play it again. But had he adapted, I would have maybe given him some type of eyes like cats or something to help him see in the dark. And that way he could have continued on the way to get the treasure. So for my final design, he didn't end up getting the third adaptation, and that's okay. So I decided to just draw him using the other two, so he has his long arms and fur, so we can see how he changed from the first starting design to the final. It's just like how some animals change over time and turn into new species. So here we have him more adapted to the environments he encountered on his way up Mount Hood to find the treasure. And your character will do just the same.